Womanjika everyone, Womanjika meaning welcome. My name is Auntie Julianne and I'm an out of the Wurundjeri Woi-wurrung people, and in recognition of doing my welcome to country, I'd like to pay my respects to my elders past, present, future and any elders that were here today, and I would also like to welcome you all here today. The Wurundjeri Woi-wurrung tribe consists of three families, the Nevins, the Terricks and the Wandins, and I'm part of the Nevin family. The three families all descend from one woman called Annie Barratt, which makes us one big family. Annie Barratt is the youngest sister of William Barratt, a pioneer for Aboriginal people in the 19th century, fighting for equality and land rights. I'm here today to welcome you all to the land of my ancestors. We call the land within our tribal boundaries our country. The Kulin Nation, Kulin meaning man, is made up of 5 groups. They are the Wurundjeri Woi-wurrung, Boonwurrung, Tanarong, Wathaurong and Dja Dja Wurrung. And to give you an outline of the Wurundjeri country and the area we cover. Wurundjeri country extends from north to the Great Dividing Range, east to Mount Baw Baw, south to the Mooloolik Creek and west to the Werribee River. We cover a diverse range of land from the mountains to the beach and everything in between. Many thousands of years ago, if an Aboriginal person from another tribe wanted to cross our boundary, they would have to sit at the boundary and wait for the Narragadah, which is the headman, or an elder to come past to give permission to cross. Traditional Aboriginal culture was highly territorial, and visitors risked a violent reprisal for crossing a tribal or clan boundary without this permission, and this is how a welcome to country originated in our culture. Traditionally, being welcomed onto country meant you respected Bunjil's law. Bunjil the wedge-tailed eagle is our creator, and Wah the crow is our protector. And as long as you looked after the country, you had access to our waterways and our land resources. And when you enter our country, we ask that you respect our resources, our fauna, flora and water, as they are very special to us. And when you are ready to leave, we ask that you leave it the way you found it.
We have lots of council services that support our community. We support families with children, including health services for children and mums, vaccinations, playgroups, childcare, and kinder. We support young people in our community. Through events and activities, we have services that can support people with disability, older people, and carers and family of people with disability and older people. Our libraries support everyone in our community, help people learn new things, and are free to join. We support our community to have fun and be active through events and activities, sport, and recreation areas. We help look after our places and spaces, the environment, and local businesses. We have laws to keep people safe, to make sure buildings are safe, to make sure roads and footpaths are safe, to make sure our places and spaces are safe. We make sure everyone follows the law to keep our community safe and happy. Moonee Valley. It's a great place to live, work, and visit.
Welcome to the Council meeting. I'm Councillor Piers Tyson, Mayor of Moonee Valley City Council. We aim to get started every second Tuesday at 6:30 p.m. However, sometimes there are some delays behind the scenes that we need to work through, and we appreciate your patience. You can have a look at our agenda online for all the issues that we'll be talking about tonight, and we look forward to seeing you soon. Thanks. So every second Tuesday we work through our council agenda, and what that means is working through things from procedural, day-to-day issues, financial reports, all the way up to the most important things in Moonee Valley, in Victoria or in Australia. And councillors can put up alternatives to that, can put up our staff officers' recommendation, and we can debate that and vote yes or no at the end of the day.
Woman Jika, everyone. Woman Jika meaning welcome. My name is Auntie Julianne, and I'm an elder of the Wurundjeri Woi-wurrung people. And in recognition of doing my welcome to country, I'd like to pay my respects to my elders, past, present, future, and any elders that were here today. And I would also like to welcome you all here today. The Wurundjeri Woi-wurrung tribe consists of 3 families, the Nevins, the Terricks, and the Wandins, and I'm part of the Nevin family. The 3 families all descend from one woman called Annie Barratt, which makes us one big family. Annie Barratt is the youngest sister of William Barratt, a pioneer for Aboriginal people in the 19th century, fighting for equality and land rights. I'm here today to welcome you all to the land of my ancestors. We call the land within our tribal boundaries our country. The Kulin Nation, Kulin meaning man, is made up of 5 groups. They are the Wurundjeri Woi-wurrung, Boonwurrung, Tanarong, Wathaurong and Dja-dja-wurrung. And to give you an outline of the Wurundjeri country and the area we cover. Wurundjeri country extends from north to the Great Dividing Range, east to Mount Baw Baw, south to the Morley Creek and west to the Werribee River. We cover a diverse range of land from the mountains to the beach and everything in between. Many thousands of years ago, if an Aboriginal person from another tribe wanted to cross our boundary, they would have to sit at the boundary and wait for the Narragadah, which is the headman, or an elder to come past to give permission to cross. Traditional Aboriginal culture was highly territorial, and visitors risked a violent reprisal for crossing a tribal or clan boundary without this permission, and this is how a welcome to country originated in our culture. Traditionally, being welcomed onto country meant you respected Bunjil's law. Bunjil, the wedge-tailed eagle, is our creator, and Wah, the crow, is our protector. And as long as you looked after the country, you had access to our waterways and our land resources. And when you enter our country, we ask that you respect our resources, our fauna, flora and water, as they are very special to us. And when you are ready to leave, we ask that you leave it the way you found it.
Welcome everyone to the Council meeting on the 14th of November 2023, which I now declare open at 6:30pm. I'd like to warmly welcome members of the public gallery who have joined us tonight, as well as those watching from home via the internet. As well as being live streamed, the video recording of this meeting will also be available on our website, so attendees in the gallery are advised that their presence may be recorded. I also ask that mobile phones please be switched to silent mode during the meeting. And a reminder to the public in the gallery that under Governance Rule 75.1, personal video and audio recordings in the chamber of the meeting is not allowed. On behalf of Moonee Valley City Council, I respectfully acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land on which Moonee Valley is located, the Wurundjeri Woi-wurrung people of the Kulin Nation, and we pay respects to their spirits, ancestors, community members and elders past, present and emerging. We also extend this respect to other Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples. So councillors, we're moving to item 2 on the agenda, apologies and leave of absence. I have received an apology from the Mayor, Councillor Tyson. Do we have any other leave of absences that need to be noted? I will also note too that Councillor Nation will hopefully be joining us around 6:50 tonight. Okay, confirmation of minutes. Councillors, can I please have a mover and a seconder that the minutes from the council meetings held on the 24th of October 2023 and 26th of October 2023 be confirmed? Councillor Hodgson, thank you. Do I have a seconder for that motion? Councillor Hodgson, what are you moving actually?
The motion as read, Deputy Mayor, thank you.
Seconder, Councillor Byrne, thank you. Councillor Hodgson, would you like to speak to the motion? Councillor Byrne, would you like to speak to the motion? Any other councillor like to speak to the item? I'll put that to the vote. All those in favour? That's carried unanimously. Thank you. Councillors, do we have any conflicts of interest in any item on the agenda tonight, please? No? Thank you. Councillors, do we have any presentations tonight? No? Petitions and joint letters. I believe we do have 2 joint letters tonight. Councillors, Councillor Isa.
Sorry, Councillor Adams and I being furiously polite to each other to go first. I'll go first. I've got a joint letter. Councillors received a joint letter from the Committee of Essendon District Aquatic regarding difficulties in gaining affordable pool space for the swimming club. The joint letter highlights issues the club is facing with respect to maintaining current activities and services and requests Council considers negotiating with the club for ongoing affordable lane hire at Keilor East and Ascot Vale leisure centres. So just table that joint letter. Thanks, Mayor. Deputy Mayor. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Isa. In accordance with Governance Rule 62.4, I refer that joint letter to the CEO for consideration. Councillor Adams, I think you had the other.
Thanks, Deputy Mayor. Council received a joint letter from 6 residents of Lion Street, Essendon, requesting permit parking to be introduced for residences on Lion Street. The joint letter further highlights congestion on the west side of the street that is preventing some residents from safely exiting their premises and requests Council to review and consider introduction of permit parking in the vicinity. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Adams. In accordance with Governance Rule 62.4, I refer that joint letter to the CEO for consideration. Do we have any other petitions or joint letters? No. Okay. So we now have public question time, and we have received 8 questions this evening. The first question is from Bill Dowden, who is not joining us this evening. So on behalf of Bill, I'll ask the question. With daylight savings starting and it's brighter out for longer, the glare in the warm water pool at Keilor East Leisure Centre is quite bright. Is there any plans for a blind or at least tinting on the windows to prevent the glare? Thank you, Bill. I refer to our CEO, Helen Swee, to respond.
Thank you, Bill. Through the chair, Council officers are aware of the great impact on participants and staff in the warm water pool area. Officers understand that plans are not feasible for this area and are investigating other options to address the concern. Thank you.
Thank you, CEO. The next two questions are from Peter Robinson, who is not joining us this evening. So on behalf of Peter, I will read his questions out. Question 1, how much money did MVCC spend on the recent Voice referendum? Thank you, Peter. I will refer your question to our CEO, Helen Swee, to respond.
Thank you, Peter. Through the chair, Council endorsed a budget of $8,000 to assist residents to understand how a referendum works and the changes being proposed for the Voice referendum. Council spent $7,640 on delivering the intended purpose of this Council resolution. Thank you.
Thank you, CEO. Peter's next question reads, East Kilo Aquatic Centre is a boring pool. Kids don't go near it. No slides, no diving boards, etc. Kids go to neighbouring pools instead. Can fees for children attending the outdoor pool be waived, as is done in most of rural Victoria? Thank you, Peter. I will refer your question to our CEO to respond.
Thank you, Peter. Through the chair, the Kilo East Leisure Centre design was aligned with the Aquatic Leisure Centre Plan 2014 to 2023 adopted by Council in November 2014 and provides a range of aquatic and leisure opportunities for the community. Attendance at the Kilo East Leisure Centre now exceeds 380,000 annual visitations per year. Fees and charges are set by Council as part of its annual budgeting process. Thank you.
Thank you, CEO. The next question is from Tommy Ledoux, who is not joining us this evening. So on behalf of Tommy, the Victorian Government has released its plan to build 60,000 new homes in Melbourne in 10 different areas, as reported on by The Age on the 31st of October. 2 of these designated density areas are in Moonee Valley and right next to each other, in Essendon North and Niddrie. Does the Council think this is a responsible planning move, considering the close proximity to each other, when the other 8 sites are spread out right across Melbourne? Thank you, Tommy. I refer to our CEO, Helen Swee, to respond.
Thank you, Tommy. Through the chair, the September release of the Victorian Government Housing Statement was the first time that Council was made aware of the Eastern North and Kilo East, Kilo Road, Niddrie being included in the 10 nominated activity centres. The Victorian Government has designated these activity centres as pilots for the introduction of new planning controls to increase housing growth and choice. As part of the pilot, Council will work with the Victorian Government on plans for both activity centres and to help guide investment in infrastructure, services and open spaces in response to the expected growth and change. Thank you.
Thank you, CEO. The next 2 questions are from Selena Cheers, who is not joining us this evening. So on behalf of Selena, what is Moonee Valley Council's stance on the ongoing violence and humanitarian crisis occurring in Gaza? Thank you, Selena. I will refer your question to our CEO, Helen Swee, to respond.
Thank you, Selena. Through the chair, Council as an organisation does not have a position on this conflict, except that we empathise with everyone directly and indirectly impacted. Thank you.
Thank you, CEO. Selena's next question reads, will Council, on behalf of the City of Moonee Valley, contact the Honourable Bill Shorten as our local representative to advocate for ceasefire and the free access of aid into Gaza? Thank you, Selena. I will refer your question to our CEO to respond.
Thank you, Selena. Through the chair, Foreign policy is a responsibility of the Commonwealth Government. We encourage concerned community members to contact relevant federal representatives directly on this matter. Thank you.
Thank you, CEO. The next two questions are from Chris Angus, who is not joining us this evening. So on behalf of Chris, when will the Council complete and publish its report into the options and feasibility of time-based designated off-leash dog areas, which was unanimously agreed to by councillors on the 10th of October 2023? Thank you, Chris. I refer your question to the CEO, Helen Swee, to respond.
Thank you, Chris. Through the Chair, officers are aiming to present the report at a Council meeting in the first quarter of 2024. Thank you.
Thank you, CEO. The second question from Chris reads, noting considerable public interest in this topic, will Council seek or receive public submissions and comments on its report into the options and feasibility of time-based designated off-leash dog park areas? Thank you, Chris. Our CEO shall respond.
Thank you, Chris. Through the Chair, the report to Council will provide a technical summary of options and feasibility and outline the process involved, including any appropriate consultation should Council resolve to make changes. No consultation will be undertaken in preparing the initial report. Thank you.
Thank you, CEO. So now we move on to reports from delegates. Councillors, do we have any reports as delegates, please? Councillor Byrne.
Thank you, Councillor Sharp. I attended my first meeting as the Moonee Valley representative for the Metropolitan Transport Forum last week or the week before, and it was a really enjoyable experience. The Metropolitan Transport Forum consists of 26 councils, and each council has a councillor and a officer. For our case, we have the team leader of strategic transport, and it's a really important body, I suppose, that helps to advocate and educate in regards to good transport and active transport, representing approximately 4 million Victorians. And coincidentally, this particular month, there was the opportunity for 4 councils to update on transport activities within their municipality, and coincidentally it was Moonee Valley's turn. So between the team leader of strategic transport and I, we touched on the EV charging stations, extending EV charging stations, various active transport projects, the Flemington Estate redevelopment, Moonee Valley Racecourse, and of course I couldn't miss my chance to talk about the East Keilor train station and our continued advocacy in that space. I will continue to provide updates when I have them. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Byrne. Any other councillor have a delegate report? No? Okay. Well, we shall move on to the first of our reports tonight, which is 9.1, discharge of responsibility as determining referral authority, planning permit MV/289/2023, 73 Fisher Parade, Ascot Vale. Councillors, do I have a motion, please? Councillor Hodgson.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. I'm happy to move the officer's recommendation.
Thank you, Councillor. Do I have a seconder for that motion? Councillor Bedio, thank you. Councillor Hodgson, would you like to speak to the motion?
Thank you, I will. This report comes to us requesting us as the acquiring authority under the public acquisition overlay down along Fisher Parade and along parts of the Maribyrnong River. We're a referral authority to planning applications that come to the council that cross over on the public acquisition overlay, and the decision we're being asked to make tonight is just as a referral authority, so not to approve the permit, but to make comment about its interaction with the public acquisition overlay. This application is for construction of a fence which does go through the public acquisition overlay, but the application shows that the fence footings are only 600 mil deep, and the officer's recommendation is that this can be easily removed or relocated or realigned should council proceed with any planned acquisition. So doesn't object to the application as it doesn't adversely affect proposed future acquisition of the land within the public acquisition overlay. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Hodgson. Councillor Bedio, would you like to speak to the motion?
Nothing further to add.
Would any other councillor like to speak to the motion? Councillor Byrne?
Thanks, Deputy Mayor. I won't be supporting this. I don't particularly like it. I often keep in mind with this overlay that once things are in, whilst they may be easy to remove, people often use them as oh yes, but there's a fence there, I don't want to have to remove them. I feel like that it is something that just doesn't need to happen, and I don't think that it really adds anything. I think that it'll also add something that's quite unsightly for people who are envisaging this particular bank, so I won't be supporting it tonight.
Thank you, Councillor Byrne. Any other councillor wish to speak to this motion? Councillor Isa?
Thanks, Deputy Mayor. I spoke to a resident who lives just a few doors down from 73 Fisher Parade, and he very helpfully explained to me that the purpose of this fence is to help keep a pet dog on the relevant property, because at the moment the dog is straying into other people's properties. And so on one side there's been a temporary, or another property there's been a sort of a temporary fence put up, and what the residents have then done is surround that fence with a whole lot of pot plants and greenery, and people are really pleased with the way that that's improved the aesthetic for the garden. The option for this particular dog owner was to do a similar thing or to have something a little bit more stable, and they opted for the safety of residents and for the safety of the dog to do something a little bit more stable. It's a 1.2 metre fence. It's as simple as fences come, and we've previously approved in the relevant public acquisition overlay a similar sort of fence with just very simple stumps and a wire. And I imagine that similarly this will be made attractive through some greenery, as the residents are really proud of the particular aesthetic that they can create along the riverbank there. The fence wouldn't require a permit under the public acquisition overlay, so it doesn't compromise the decision guidelines of the clause. However, any works within the overlay do require this referral process, so it's really a bit of a lengthy referral process to us for something that actually wouldn't need a permit. And because it's for the safety of residents and the safety of an animal and will be beautified in relevant ways, I think it's absolutely fine for us to support the neighbours trying to protect each other and their dog.
Thank you, Councillor Isa. Would any other councillor wish to speak to this item? Councillor Hodgson, would you like to a right of reply?
Thanks, Deputy Mayor. Look, I think Councillor Isa's really helpfully articulated the issue there, and I'll just say that, you know, I appreciate the applicant's efforts to make this a lower impact activity, and I do think that given that Council doesn't have any current plans to exercise our right to acquire the land, I think that in the short term, the safety of keeping animals secure on the property is important, and it's a low impact activity, so keen to support it. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Hodgson. I shall put that to the vote. All those for? Councillor Isa, Councillor Hodgson, Councillor Bedio, Councillor Adams, Councillor Sharp. All those against? Councillor Byrne and Councillor Sypek. Thank you. That motion is carried. So I'll now move on to 9.2, discharge of responsibility as determining referral authority, planning permit MV-63-2023, 3 Kingston Avenue, Ascot Vale. Councillors, do I have a motion, please? Councillor Hodgson, thank you.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Happy to move the officer's recommendation for this one.
Thank you. Do I have a seconder for that motion? Councillor Bedio, thank you. Councillor Hodgson, would you like to speak to the motion?
Thank you. I will, just very similarly to the previous report, we're being asked to make a decision as the acquiring authority under the PAO. This application on 3 Kingston Avenue is for construction of a dwelling, fence and removal of vegetation. So the dwelling doesn't actually impact the public acquisition overlay, but construction of a new fence and removal of a tree within the public acquisition overlay. I understand that the fence is replacing a current timber paling fence with something that's semi-transparent, so happy to support in the sense it also borders on with a public reserve, so I do think it's important that the property owners at 3 Kingston Avenue are allowed to construct a fence along that boundary, property boundary. The removal of the tree is something that I would prefer not to see. It is, from what I understand, it's a small jacaranda, and from what I can read on the plans, I can't see that it's necessary to remove the tree. However, I understand that the removal of the tree, in fact, is also something that wouldn't trigger requirement of a permit. So it's whilst I would encourage the applicant to consider retaining the tree, I'm not of a mind to change the officer's recommendation on this, and I'm happy to support the recommendation that we provide the feedback that as a referral authority we're happy for this to go ahead. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Hodgson. Councillor Bedio, would you like to speak to the motion?
Nothing further to add.
Thank you. Would any other councillor like to speak to the motion? Councillor Byrne?
Sure. I won't be supporting this motion. I probably would have preferred to have seen the removal of the tree not occurring. Our waterways are so important and our trees are so important. As was mentioned, there probably isn't any reason for this tree to come out. So by basically, I don't know, showing the green light saying let's chop down our trees along the waterway, I just reckon it's a really average thing to do, particularly with the particular overlays that are on this area. Not the place to do it, not the reason. I don't really see why we would be supporting that.
Thank you, Councillor Byrne. Any other councillor wish to speak to the motion? Councillor Isa?
So the reason that these applications are coming to us is because of the public acquisition overlay, not because the fence or the tree actually need a permit to be dealt with in the way that the applicant's seeking to deal with them. It's because whether the referral authority around the acquisition overlay. So we have to be really mindful that as a referral authority we have a slightly different responsibility to a planning statutory decision maker, and as a referral authority we're really responding to how this application may impact our public acquisition of this land. That's why we're the referral authority. So the only basis on which we can make this decision is whether or not these features impact the public acquisition of the land. That's our role in this, our statutory role in this moment. So I don't think any of us can really argue that this application is making it impossible or interfering with our capacity to acquire this land should that be what we wanted to do. So I think on that basis, and we have to be really mindful of the decision-making parameters that we're obligated to stick to on this particular decision, and I think on that basis it's incumbent on us to support this particular application.
Thank you, Councillor Isa. Would any other councillor like to speak to this motion? I'll ask Councillor Hodgson if you would like a right of reply.
Thanks, Deputy Mayor. Once again, the points made by Councillor Isa are well made, and just to note that in the report at 2.4, the Property Department has assessed the application for its impact on the possible future acquisition of the land affected by the PAO, and the recommendation comes to us with that consideration. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Hodgson. Before I go to the vote, I'll just note that Councillor Nation has arrived and is on Zoom. Can you hear us, Councillor Nation? Do you have any conflicts of interest tonight, please? Do we need some IT for some help with hearing, Councillor Nation?
Is that better?
Yep, that's better, thank you.
No conflicts on anything on the agenda, and as a mid-item, I'll just drop off until the current matter is voted on, because I haven't been present for debate.
No problems, thank you. So Councillor Nation is just vacating this motion 9.2 because he wasn't present for the debate. So we'll go back to the vote. The right of reply has been taken, so I shall put that to the vote. All those in favour? Councillor Isa, Councillor Hodgson, Councillor Bedio, Councillor Adams, Councillor Sharp. All those against? Councillor Sypek and Councillor Byrne. Thank you. That motion is carried. Now if we can get Councillor Nation back. Yep, great, thank you. So now we are up to the draft open space strategy for community engagement, 9.3. Councillors, do I have a motion, please? Councillor Isa?
I'm happy to move the officer's recommendation. Thanks, Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Isa.
Deputy Mayor.
Do I have a seconder for that motion? Councillor Hodgson? Thank you. Councillor Isa, would you like to speak to the motion?
Thanks, Deputy Mayor. So in 2009, actually, Councillor Cusack really championed the first open space strategy that we had, and it's been a really useful document to guide our thinking around open space. But it's now obviously 14, 15 years old, and it's been well overdue. Renewing that has been well overdue. So we've got a new draft open space strategy that we're putting out, passed by councillors this evening. The draft strategy's been through a number of different stages to date. Some consultation was held in 2019, but was then the process was stalled by COVID and was reinvigorated or reinitiated in 2021-22. It's a really complicated process, and I know our officers have really worked hard and worked with us in some workshops to try to get our heads around what we're trying to do with our open space strategy. Its important purposes are to guide us in our purchases of open space, to help fill in gaps where there is not enough green space, to help us address climate change, because open space plays such a role in planting trees, in creating green, cool spaces. And also it has this other role in terms of the collection and expenditure of our open space reserve, which is an important part of our planning and our budgetary expenditure. So it is a really important document. And I'd like to thank officers for working their way at trying to tease out some key priorities to include in this document. And the strategic directions that they're pointing us towards are addressing the gaps in our open space network, enhancing the quality of our open spaces, strengthening climate resilience and biodiversity, and planning together for the future of our open space. So really what we're asking the community for is some feedback on those strategic directions. Do we have that right? Are we capturing everything that you would like to see us prioritise about our green space and open space? So going out for consultation, then it will come back to us in March, and then it will contribute to the development of an implementation plan. So this is the strategic high-level document, and officers are going to take the feedback and put together an internal document that will be called the implementation program, which will help us to inform our thinking each budget around where we want to put some money into our open space. Alongside this document, though, we are putting out a summary document of key actions to get some feedback on some things that officers are thinking are perhaps our priorities for the moment, but really asking the community if we got that right, are there some other priorities we should be putting forward. So just also wanted to really quickly mention that in the document there's some really useful demographic information. There's information about where we're expecting growth in Moonee Valley. There's also a really useful pictorial illustration of where our gaps are in open space, and there's also there's some other demographic information in there that people might find useful. So I encourage people to give us their feedback. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Isa. Councillor Hodgson, would you like to speak to the motion?
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. As has been mentioned, this is a really keenly anticipated strategy, and it has, it will, I think, provide a really great framework for us moving forward with how we manage the purchase of and enhancement of our open space. And we know, since the events of 2020 and since then, that how important open space is for everyone. As people will see when they read through the strategy and the key actions document that is also to go out to consultation, there are a number of possible work streams that final endorsement of this strategy might, kick off. And I think in terms of us being able to really prioritise and make sure that we're getting the value for money and the putting the effort in the right place at the right time, it's going to be really valuable to get this feedback from the community. And I note that it's not just a matter of buying new open space. That's really important, but it's also about how do we work with the open space that we have, because any single park can't be everything to everyone, and it's important that across the municipality we are able to provide for everyone's needs and try and do that in a way that people have as great access to open space and the open space that they prefer as possible. So it's such an important document for us to have a holistic view of our open space, how to manage it, and particularly, Councillor Isa has raised the point of how we spend the open space reserve, and having this strategy to guide that strategically, I think, is really important, and I'm really looking forward to hearing what people say about it.
Thank you, Councillor Hodgson. Does any other councillor wish to speak to this motion? No? I'll put that to the vote then. All those in... Councillor Nation, you didn't have your hand up to speak, did you? Sorry, I didn't look. Okay. I'll put that to the vote. All those in favour? That's carried unanimously. Thank you. 9.4, the award of the contract for Laluma Street Drainage Improvement Works, negotiation number 10025. Councillors, do I have a motion, please? Councillor Adams.
Thanks, Deputy Mayor. I'll move the officer's recommendation, please.
Thank you, Councillor Adams. Do I have a seconder for that motion, please? Councillor Bedio, thank you. Councillor Adams, would you like to speak to the motion?
I will, thank you. This motion recommends the award of contract for Laluma Street Drainage Improvement Works that will enable Council to deliver underground drainage works at Laluma Street and Elder Parade, Essendon, which have experienced severe flooding in recent history that have had significant adverse impacts on the residents in that area. The proposed drainage improvement works are anticipated to mitigate flooding and include the excavation of existing road pavement, curbs, crossovers, the construction of drainage pits and pipes, footpaths and associated line marking. The works have been identified as a priority and received funding approval in the 23-24 Capital Works program. The public tender received 3 submissions, all within the council budget, and were assessed by a panel against qualitative and quantitative criteria. The report recommends the award of the contract to ADP Constructions Proprietary Limited for the amount of $973,732.24, excluding GST. Importantly, the procurement was carried out in accordance with Council's obligations under the Local Government Act 2020, Council's procurement policy and other relevant legislation, and so happy to support. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Adams. Councillor Bedio, would you like to speak to the motion?
Nothing further to add. Thank you, Deputy Mayor.
Thank you. Would any other councillor like to speak to the motion? Okay, I'll put that to the vote. All those in favour? That's carried unanimously. Thank you. 9.5, submission to the Aviation Green Paper. Councillors, do I have a motion, please? Councillor Isa?
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. I'd like to move the officer's recommendation with a couple of amendments. I'll just read the entire motion if that's easiest. That Council resolves to A, endorse the submission on the Aviation Green Paper Attachment 1 with the following amendment to delete paragraph 4 on page 7. B, provide a copy of the submission to the Municipal Association of Victoria. And C, authorise the Chief Executive Officer or their delegate Director of Strategy and Planning to make any minor amendments, including any responses relevant to the correspondence received from the CEO of Essendon Airport Proprietary Limited before lodging the submission to the Department of Infrastructure, Transport, Regional Development, Communications and the Arts.
Thank you, Councillor Isa. Do I have a seconder for that motion, please? Seconder, Councillor Hodgson. Thank you. Councillor Isa, would you like to speak to the motion?
Thank you very much, Deputy Mayor. The Aviation Green Paper is on public exhibition at the moment, and I think I read that our submissions are due by the 30th of this month, and our officers have put together succinct and I guess very pointed submission. It makes some really clear, Council's position on a number of aspects of our, I guess, challenges of having some residential suburbs adjacent to an airport, and that presents some amenity and planning challenges. And so the submission outlines some of those. The reason for the amendments are that we received very late this afternoon via our officers some correspondence from the CEO of Essendon Fields, and I thank the CEO for bringing that to our attention. And I think that those amendments, I hope that those amendments respond appropriately to that correspondence that we've received, but it also allows for our officers to make any further adjustments to the submission in light of the things that were brought to our attention by the CEO. I guess to summarise really quickly what I see as the main points in the submission is that there are some real areas of policy conflict between council and the airport operations. And as I say, they're not just noise or amenity issues. There's some planning, residential planning interface issues, and also some climate-related issues, particularly our canopy where trees might be where there's requests to remove trees because of the airport activity. So there are some challenges for us as a council in managing some of those policy conflicts. The submission notes that as a council, our capacity to respond to those is subservient to state and federal tools, and we as a council have very limited capacity to manage those issues, whether it's with respect to compensation for residents, within an aviation overlay. I think I've got the name wrong there, but So we don't really have controls over the overlay tools that then might give rise to those planning mechanisms to deal with noise amelioration. So as I say, there's sort of little that we can do as a council, but we can be heard on these issues. And so that's precisely the reason that we're putting forward this submission, to bring to the attention of those perhaps with the levers and the tools to help residents respond to living next to an airport, to bring to the attention of those levels of government the concerns that we can see. There's also an interesting note at the end of the submission around helicopter flights operating at Flemington Racecourse without a planning permit, and obviously that's an issue relating to land that's in the City of Melbourne, but for anyone interested, there's some interesting comment there. I mean, I certainly get a lot of complaints about helicopter noise during the spring carnival, and there are some interesting comments there from council on that particular issue. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Isa. Councillor Hodgson, would you like to speak to the motion?
Thanks, Deputy Mayor. Look, I don't have much to add. I just really appreciate the officers' efforts in putting together this submission to the Aviation Green Paper. It's obviously what happens at both of the airports, you know, has a great impact on the City of Moonee Valley and our residents, and it's wonderful to be able to make a submission to really clearly articulate what those impacts are and what we recommend needs to be in place in order to manage them. So happy to support this officer's recommendation. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Hodgson. Any other councillor wish to speak to this motion? I'll put that to the vote then. All those in favour? Thank you. That's carried unanimously. 9.6, submission to the modernising car and bicycle parking requirements discussion paper. Councillors, do I have a motion, please? Anyone? Councillor Hodgson, thank you.
Thanks, Deputy Mayor. I'll move the officer's recommendation.
Thank you. Do I have a seconder for that motion, please? Councillor Bedio, thank you. Councillor Hodgson, would you like to speak to the motion?
Thank you, I will. Just briefly, this is similar to one that I think at last meeting we considered. The Department of Transport and Planning has invited us to respond to a discussion paper on a few planning scheme clause amendments that they are considering. These are relating to the car parking and bicycle facilities requirements in the planning scheme. As regular listeners of our council meetings will know, when we see planning applications, we are often discussing the provision of car parking and bicycle facilities and end-of-trip facilities in new developments. And the officers have put together some really valuable feedback on the proposed changes from the Victorian Government that will hopefully allow us to, as you know, the on-the-ground planning decision makers, to assess on case-by-case basis, but also make it, you know, clearer and streamlined so that we can try and improve the way that the planning scheme responds to those needs to make housing affordable, but also to encourage active transport and use of bikes and reduced reliance on cars. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Hodgson. Councillor Bedio, would you like to speak to the motion?
No, very well summarised by Councillor Hodgson. Happy to support.
Thank you, Councillor Bedio. Would any other councillor like to speak to the motion? I'll put that to the vote then. All those in favour? That is Councillor Nation, Councillor Isa, Councillor Hodgson, Councillor Bedio, Councillor Adams. All those against? Councillor Byrne, thank you. That, sorry, I did not say my name before, so sorry. That motion is carried. Thank you. Okay, 9.7, the unconfirmed minutes of Audit and Risk Committee meeting 18th of September 2023. Councillors, do I have a motion, please? Councillor Hodgson.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. I'll move the officer's recommendation.
Thank you. Do I have a seconder for that motion? Councillor Adams, thank you. Councillor Hodgson, would you like to speak to the motion?
Just briefly, this report is just the noting of unconfirmed minutes for the Audit and Risk Committee meeting held on the 18th of September 2023. The key points of discussion at that meeting were our Council Annual Report, Financial Statement and Performance Checklist, which we discussed recently in Council Chambers when we endorsed those documents. We discussed the Council Risk Appetite Statement, and there were some constructive comments made regarding the Fraud and Corruption Control Plan. And importantly, we thanked our outgoing independent member, Mr Jeff Harry, for his contributions to the Audit and Risk Committee. Mr Harry had to step off the committee for personal reasons, and we welcomed a new member, a new independent member, Richard Ainio, who I'm sure made many contributions in the meeting and will be a valuable independent member for the Audit and Risk Committee going forward. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Hodgson. Councillor Adams, would you like to speak to the motion? Would any other councillor like to speak to the motion? I'll put that to the vote. All those in favour? That's carried unanimously. Thank you. So that brings us to item 10. The next item of business is notices of motion, and we have two listed on tonight's agenda. At 10.1, I'd like to call Councillor Bedio to present his first notice of motion titled Notice of Motion number 2023/37, Kindergarten in Moonee Ponds.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. I move that Council resolves to request the CEO to provide a report to Council by no later than March 2024 that A. Identifies potential suitable locations for a Council-operated kindergarten in Moonee Ponds, and B. Sets out potential options to set up a Council-operated kindergarten in Moonee Ponds by 1 February 2025.
Thank you, Councillor Bedio. Is there a seconder, please, for that motion? Councillors, we need a seconder for Councillor Bedio's motion. Councillor Nation, thank you. Councillor Bedio, would you like to speak to your motion?
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Moonee Ponds is a rapidly growing suburb with a trend towards young couples and young families. It's also one of the few suburbs in Moonee Valley without a council-operated kindergarten. Our council kinders are highly regarded as being providers of high-quality early years education and childcare to the residents of Moonee Valley. And being one of our thriving city centres with demonstrated demand, Moonee Ponds is well deserving of a council-operated kindergarten. Thank you to members of the community who have contacted me in relation to this matter. I hear you and I understand how important it is for you all to have a council-run kinder in Moonee Ponds. This motion requests that the CEO provide to Council by no later than March next year with a report that specifies suitable locations for a kindergarten and a means to have the centre set up by February 2025. I hope that my councillor colleagues will support this motion.
Thank you, Councillor Bedio. Councillor Nation, would you like to say a few words?
Thanks, Acting Mayor. Look, happy to support and second this motion. It's not a new conversation. I think over the past 10 or 11 years I've been on council, there's been 6 or so Moonong ward councillors that have spoke about the need for a kindergarten in Moonee Ponds, and there hasn't been a great deal of traction. So, Councillor Bedio, hoping you're the one to hopefully finally get this issue progressed. We know there's a massive need in Moonee Ponds, as you said, the demographic. It's skewing younger and younger in terms of younger couples and young families, particularly with the increase in housing and the high-rise housing, which attracts younger families just due to price point, but also due to modern living and wanting to live near transport nodes as well. So commend you for keeping this on the radar, and let's hope you're one of the 6 that will be able to crack this egg and we'll be able to get a little bit of traction and movement, and hopefully even some traction with our local members who we've seen a lot of investment in education over the past couple of years. So hopefully this whets their appetite a little bit as well. So good on you, and let's hope we can get some movement here. Thanks, Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Nation. Would any other councillor like to speak to this item? Councillor Hodgson, yep.
Thanks, Deputy Mayor, and thank you, Councillor Bedio. Look, just to add to Councillor Nation's comments, I think it is obviously long overdue, and we do have an opportunity with the investment in kindergarten from the state government at the moment to try and push this issue again. One of the other reasons I think why we have a lot of young families moving into the Moonee Ponds area is that, unlike a lot of other parts of Melbourne, Moonee Ponds actually has a surplus in childcare availability. So, you know, we're drawing them in young and then get to kindergarten age, and there is a gap in that service delivery. So hopefully, particularly with the imminent rollout of universal 3-year-old kinder, we can see some action here. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Hodgson. Any other councillor wish to speak to this motion? Councillor Byrne?
Sure, I will. And thank you, Councillor Bedio, for bringing this in. I remember Councillor Nicole Marshall really trying to champion this quite a while ago. And I also remember about, I don't know, was it 6 months ago, we were talking about dog parks. And I said, forget about the dog parks, worry about your kinder. So really glad, and I know that there's dog parks coming up, so I don't know whether I'm going to be bringing up that line again. But I'm really glad that this is happening. I am mindful of the timelines. This isn't speaking against the motion. As someone who's gone through the kinder process quite a few times, normally the applications open for the following year in around that March time. Oops, I just broke my pen. In around that March time. So it'll be interesting to see what the team can actually do to be able to get something to us to then have the applications potentially open around March for then 2025. There's not enough council-run kinder places, and for people who are unaware, there's different types of kinder that you can have. You can have your kinder integrated in with an existing childcare facility, or you can have sort of standalone council sessional kinder. Now that the government has promoted the sessional kinder as being free, a lot of people like that option. Not to say that there's anything against the integrated, that's definitely a very good option for some people as well. But the fact is that we have definitely over 10,000 people who live in Moonee Ponds and not a council council-run kinder service there. So it is something that would be very good to get up and running, and I hope that we see some movement in this space whilst there's an appetite from the state government to be supporting these critical services. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Byrne. Would any other councillor like to speak to this motion? I will put that to the vote. All those in favour? That's carried unanimously. Thank you. Our next point is 10.2, and I'd call Councillor Bedio to present his second notice of motion, titled Notice of Motion number 2023-38, Dog Park in Moonee Ponds. Please.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. I move that Council resolves to request the CEO to provide a report to Council by no later than March 2024 that sets out potential options to set up a dog park within Moonee Ponds by 1 January 2025.
Thank you, Councillor Bedio. Do I have a seconder for that motion, please? Councillor Nation, thank you. Councillor Bedio, would you like to speak to your motion?
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. With the growing number of apartments in Moonee Ponds and the growing number of doggos living in these apartments, it's never been more important to provide our furry friends with a nearby off-leash dog park so that they can stretch their legs. There are currently no dog parks within a reasonable walking distance from Moonee Ponds city centre and would require most dog owners to drive to the nearest off-leash dog park. We've delivered some incredible dog parks recently, including at Cliff Whitworth Reserve and at Alf Pierce Reserve, and I'm confident that Council can deliver something similar in Mopo. I've spoken to many residents of Moonee Ponds, and it is evident that a dog park in the area is in high demand. This motion requests the CEO to provide a report to Council by no later than March 2024 that identifies locations and options to roll out an off-leash dog park within Moonee Ponds by the start of 2025. And whilst I can understand Councillor Byrne's sentiment that we should be prioritising kindergartens, in the wise words of Old El Paso, why can't we have both? Many of us who choose not to have kids, our fur babies are our babies, and it's just important that we look after them as well. So I hope that my councillor colleagues will support this motion.
Thank you, Councillor Bedio. Councillor Nation, would you like to say a few words?
I don't think I can follow that act, so just happy to support this motion. Dog parks are some of the best bang for buck of ratepayers' money, particularly when the state government chips in some of the funding. It's even better bang for buck. So again, Moonee Ponds, a heavily populated suburb, a lot of young couples, young families, and also with changes in rental laws in terms of pet ownership, there is a high rental population in Moonee Ponds. And now with new changes in rental laws in terms of being able to have dogs in rentals, no doubt that dog population will grow as well. So happy to support, and yes, well done for tying in some old El Paso lines there, Councillor Bedio. Matches the new hairstyle. Well done.
Thank you, Councillor Nation. Would any other councillor like to speak to this motion? Councillor Byrne?
I sort of feel like I have to now. Look, it's not that I'm against dog parks. I very much like dog parks, and I think they've been a wonderful asset to our municipality. My reading of this motion, that whilst it's MOPO, obviously we've got a lot of dogs running around down closer to the Aberfeldy end of Moonee Ponds, and you're probably more talking around city centre is my understanding. And like the fact is that there's not a lot of land, there's not a lot of open space as it is. Now, are we going to prioritise that for dog parks? Yeah, I think hopefully there is an opportunity. I think that if there was a particular piece of land, my preference would be for it to go towards a kindergarten, but you know, maybe we can be creative and have multi-levels of kindergartens and dog parks and gosh knows what else. But I suppose one thing that I am mindful of, just going back to the Old El Paso sort of thought, is the last time I remember that being used, government side, was in the state election when they said we can have transport or we could have health. Why don't we have both? And now sitting around this chamber and knowing from a council point of view, whilst we'll promise that we could have both, we've had our train station taken off us at this point in time. So whilst it's easy to say yes, we should be able to provide both of these things, sometimes it actually isn't as easy as what we would like. So it'll be very interesting. We've touched on the open space strategy, we've touched on kindergartens, we've touched on dog parks. It would be lovely to be able to deliver this for a suburb of more than 10,000 people, I've got no doubt about that. But I'll wait assuming this crosses the line, I will wait for the report to come back just to see what we're prioritising. But yes, our poochers definitely need to be looked after. They are very important parts of our community. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Byrne. Would any other councillor like to speak to this motion? Councillor Hodgson, yep.
I just will quickly, Deputy Mayor, and I too support the idea that, you know, particularly with the availability of open space reserve for these sorts of purposes, think that, you know, we can at least pursue the option of both a kindergarten and dog park. Happy to support both of these. I do note that I think there's money for a feasibility study in our current budget for this, so I'm sure the report will tie into that, and also, as Councillor Burns mentioned, its relevance to the open space strategy, which is just been endorsed to go out for community engagement. So I suppose through that we might also get some feedback from the community about how these interact and whether the residents in Moonee Ponds would like to prioritise a dog park as the use of their open space allocation, I suppose, for lack of a better suggestion. But the other final point that I will make is I believe that at the last state election there was a government commitment to a dog park some money towards a dog park in Flemington, to Councillor Nation's point. And perhaps we can also find out a bit of information through this report about the feasibility of a dog park in Flemington and whether that that commitment of, it had a 3 and a few zeros, I want to say 30 or 300,000, it's probably more like 300, would be an option for and relevant to this motion. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor. Would any other councillor like to speak to this motion? I don't think I heard any dissent in any discussion. So I shall put that to the vote. All those in favour? That's carried unanimously. Thank you. Okay, item 11. Councillors, do we have any urgent business tonight? No. Confidential reports. We do not have any confidential reports listed on the agenda this evening. So at 7:30 p.m, that concludes the business on tonight's agenda. So the meeting is declared closed at 7:30. Thank you very much for joining us. Our next meeting will be in 2 weeks' time. Thank you.